Hey, good morning, everybody. It is January 30th of 2021. It is 10:35 a.m. We're 5 minutes late, but I'm excited that I'm here today from Here For You Resources and Connections with Nancy Ford. If you're having a little bit of feedback, it's one of those issues that we're having today, but I'm grateful that you're here, that you're listening, and I'm really excited to have my guest today, Nancy Ford. Nancy is a new friend of mine, and we've been in an intensive leadership program through Red Elephant for the past 17 weeks together. So I'm getting to learn a lot about Nancy. She has a wealth of the background of so many different artistic creative talents and really has a special message that is dear to my heart. So welcome, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Excellent. We're happy to have you too. So let's get the audience to know a little bit about you. So why don't you share, who you are, what you've been like up to before we get into the big topic. Just share about yourself.
Oh man, that's a lot of stuff because I have what I like to call a tossed salad background.
Yes.
I grew up in Sanford, Florida. I left shortly after high school, was gone for 36 years. While I was gone, I lived in Rochester, New York, the Bay Area of California, upstate New York, Memphis, Tennessee. Then I came back to Sanford, Florida, and I currently live in the house that I grew up in.
Wow.
As you
That's
might
beautiful.
imagine, I had lots of experiences in all of those different places. But one thing I learned in living in all of those places, no
No.
matter where you go, you take yourself with you. What I
Wow.
mean by that is you can't leave your geographical area to try to fix yourself or change, because when you move and go to some other place, you gravitate to a group of people who are just like the current you. So the change has to come from inside.
I love that. When you said that, you know what hit me? It was like when people say you move from place to place, like you're trying to run away from something, but like wherever you're trying to run away from, it follows you. It follows
Yeah,
you.
it doesn't follow you, it goes with you.
Yes, yes, perfect. Right. So, like you said, if you haven't really, let's just say low energy, right? We're in a bad place, bad experience, and you've literally taken that baggage with you and you've planted yourself in another place, and that baggage is going to unpack and you're going to attract those same people with you.
Until you decide that you no longer want to present as the person you've been presenting as. And when I say present, I don't mean in front of other people. I mean present to yourself, if that makes sense.
Mm. No, it does. And let's like now dive right into this because this is really beautiful. I just got chills when you said that. Because when you said when you're ready to present, and I think the piece that I want people to learn about you and what you're, like just for you guys to know, Nancy does speaking engagements and she's a coach and she does a ton of other things. But inside of this particular conversation, how do we know? Like here I am, and in my heart, like I'm so tired of like the same things that are showing up for me over and over and over again. I'm scared about that. What do I do? Like, how do I finally? Yes, I admit it. Like, admit it first. But then I'm sort of like, but now what? So, what do you
Well,
have to say?
that's the first step. The first step is acknowledgement. And it generally happens when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. It requires a bit of courage. You know, it requires that you step outside and trust your inner self. Trust that your inner self is going to take care of you. If it has taken care of you when you were in those situations that were not comfortable for you. Well, they were comfortable, but you were not happy there. And if your inner self took care of you then, surely it will take care of you when you decide to better yourself. And what has to happen is you need to surround yourself with a different kind of person. You need to find yourself new support. Sometimes that means a support group. Often it means leaving behind the people with whom you're familiar because they're toxic to you. And I like what Les Brown says. I heard him say in one of his speeches that you surround yourself with OQP, only quality people. And if someone is not um, is not adding quality to your life, why are you with that person?
Mm.
That's the question. But it's difficult because we like to feel comfortable, and sometimes it is more comfortable to stay in a situation that you know is toxic and is not good for you. But at some point, you will feel that enough is enough. And when you make that decision, when you truly make that decision that you're ready to go, the universe will rise up to meet you and will put things in your path to help you along. It is up to you, however, to embrace those things.
Mm. So, with that being said, is there something like that? If somebody, so that for me comes up very like cerebral, right? Like it's a, oh, kind of like a learning educational book. Is there something that you can like share vulnerably with the, the viewers today that can kind of like take it if you're not like a knowledgeable person, but like, so this is what happened to me in my life, and this is when I saw that.
Absolutely. And many of my friends, especially my family, my Facebook friends, my friends don't know this about me because I was not here when it happened, and where I was when it happened, I'm not connected with those people. I was in abusive relationships years ago when I was in my 20s and I was living in New York State. I had, for some reason, I kept attracting men into my life who thought I was a punching bag. One day I was sitting in a bar. It was an evening. I was sitting in a bar and some guy walked up to me and offered to buy me a drink. I accepted the drink. Then he wanted me to leave with him. I'm like, no. He says, and I bought you these drinks. I told him, I walk in the bar with the price of a drink in my pocket. Would you like for me to pay you back? And he started talking about what he would do to me. I said, if you hit me, I will kill you and be ready to go to jail. And I felt a shift. And no man has ever laid his hands on me since. Because in my mind, I decided that I deserved better. I was better than that. And it's not that no one has laid a hand on me because I've threatened them. It's because the universe saw that I felt worthy of living a life free from that type of brutality. And because I decided I deserved better, I got better. I
Wow.
received.
I've got chills right now. Really, as you were talking, it really just all, that's why, thank you. Thank you, first of all. Thank you so much for sharing that vulnerable, for many people, not as courageous to be able to share that. I feel like it really tied into what we talked about. You were in this abusive relationship one after another. And when you said you didn't know why, right? That was like you didn't know yet why, but like that gut, when it finally occurred to you that at that moment again, it was enough is enough.
Mm-hmm.
And boom, the minute you went from I'm worthy, because I would say the conversation that was running your life was I'm not worthy,
Mm-hmm.
boom, the universe and that aligned.
Yes, because
And I think,
apparently I felt that Not so much that I deserved to be beat,
No.
but that was the best I could do. That
Mm.
I didn't deserve. On a deep level, you feel that you don't deserve anything better. And that's the best you can do. But once you decide that you deserve better, that you're worthy, that you can do better, and you decide it at a core level, not just saying it, as I say, the universe will rise up to meet you.
Yeah, and I think this goes perfectly into why I wanted you on today, because I really feel like the part that might be missing for people, like I might think it, but it hasn't hit me core, is
Exactly.
that whole piece of how do you create that safe space to step into that courage and really at a cellular level say, okay, I'm worth it. And guys, for viewers, I didn't do the disclaimer that we might be discussing stuff that might trigger you. And so if you're watching this later, you might want to fast forward. If there's something that has triggered you, please reach out to Nancy and I. We would love to support you in these conversations or know that there are people out there that can support you. Because I really feel like for all the years when I was a social worker, working with people who have been through traumatic situations, and by the way, this doesn't have to be traumatic. I get that with regards to finances.
Mhm.
I get it with regards to the money that I make, the prices that I charge. At times, it's like, oh, this is all that I'm worth. This is all that I'm deserving of. And
Mhm.
then it's like, how do I step into that place when I know enough is enough? But it's scary. It's not a safe place to go into in my brain and in here. So can we go into that kind of now new stand of what you've been talking about?
Right. So I like to talk about finding your safe space. And I use SPACE as an acronym: safety, purpose, acknowledgement, courage, and evolution. First, you have to decide that you want safety and determine that you deserve it. And the other elements, I believe, help you to feel safe. You determine your purpose. What is your purpose? Why am I here? Everyone is on the planet for a unique reason. Some of us have kind of the same reason, but no one can bring it to you like I can for my reason. So, whatever my purpose is, my stand is, as we say in Red Elephant, nobody can give it to you like I can. Someone else may have a same or a similar stand, but whereas they may resonate with you, what I say may not resonate with you, but it may resonate with someone else. So it's important to find out what your purpose is, what your stand is. Then you acknowledge the truth of who you are, and acknowledge the truth of who you have been pretending to be. Because if you are not walking in your stand, then you have been pretending to be someone else because it's easier. And that's what I mean when I say um, trying to fit in, being afraid to come out as who you really are. And because it may not be popular, you may be rejected by the people who are currently in your world. And to do that takes courage. So this is a courageous step for me, because this is the first time many people who know me will find out anything about this piece of me, because I have not put it out there to them, because they're in a different part of my life. So it takes courage to step forward. But once you do these things, once you identify your purpose and acknowledge it and be courageous enough to step out, then comes evolution. You evolve to the place where you can make a difference in someone else's life as well as in your own. And then you come into your full self. And you feel safe enough to own your space. And that's what my stand is, that everyone feels safe enough to own their space, including me, and me first, because my stand has evolved from my life circumstances of not feeling safe. And when I say not feeling safe, I don't mean necessarily in physical danger, even though sometimes that was the case. But oftentimes it's just feeling like I'm not going to fit in, I'm going to be ostracized. When I was in school, I was not one of the cool kids. And I so wanted to be one of the cool kids. But I was and am a nerd. I'm still a nerd. I never fit in with the cool kids, no matter how I tried. And the reason I believe is because fake me could not fit in with real you. Because something about real you, even though you might not be able to quite put your fingers on it, recognizes that that is not really me, that that is fake me. And fake me could not fit in with the people who were more attuned to me because I was being fake me. And they couldn't recognize real me. So when you come out as real you, then you find people who will fit into your real world, if that makes any sense at all.
Oh, it's beautiful. The way I put it together is like-minded, right? You're going to start attracting, the universe attracts you like-minded people. You know, Nancy and I know each other through the Red Elephant Intensive Leadership Program. And I knew nothing about Nancy beforehand, and she didn't know anything about me. We both have totally a purpose and a passion of making a difference for others. And she has her stand in her conversation, right? And I want to be that connection and resource for each and every human being to have what they want in their life fulfilled. And I'm clear what she's talking about is she wants people to have what they want in their life fulfilled. We have different ways of expressing it. We have different ways of sharing it, you know, intellectually, spiritually, but we're like-minded and we're together and we're working together. And I really feel like that's why we were meant to come together and be here. And I love the whole fake you conversation because it had me think of when I was in high school. I was a tomboy, right? Loved, you know, totally climbing trees. Sixth grade, for anybody who remembers me in sixth grade, I was, you know how you pinch pennies against the wall or flip baseball cards? I became the master of that. While the rest of the girls, sixth grade, you know, gymnastics, the pretty hair, kind of faking makeup a little bit, you know, all the boys, I had a ton of guy friends, but nobody liked me like that. And so that I totally relate because I wanted to be so badly like, you know, by middle school, the boyfriends came out. I'm going to date myself an age. Nancy and I are around the same age. The bracelets came out. And I wanted one of those ankle bracelets. So I tried, like you said, so hard to fit in. Started with the lipstick, started with the mascara. My mom wouldn't allow that stuff. So I sneak it in my bag, get to school, put it on. And it was so interesting because the same boys who I was this with, who totally adored me for who I am, were like no longer interested and was like, what are you doing? But I didn't understand it because I wanted to be like all those other girls with the ankle bracelet. And it's just like I started one thing after another, trying out for this thing and trying out for that thing. And it just, I'd smile, but come home and feel so not like myself. By the time I took off all my makeup and I got my soccer cleats on, I was like, you know? So it's that duality. It's that like, you know, really battle. And thank goodness by the time high school came, I found that balance. Like, I gotta say, the boys in my life, like, amen for like Billy Franco, if you're watching this, he was my next door neighbor. I moved into the town I was in at 5. He literally saw everything in me and accepted me for everything. and helped me evolve into owning like the masculine side of me, and then having me flourish authentically in the feminine side of me.
Yeah, and what I have learned is that if you cannot be your true self and be accepted by people, why do you want them in your life? Because if they're not pouring value into your life, why do you need them? Because I was a tomboy as well. In high school, I was the first girl to take auto mechanics. They tried to make me take typing. I said, I don't intend to be a secretary, but I do intend to own a car. So I ended up being able to take auto mechanics. And after I was able to take it, other girls enrolled. And do you know they put some other girl's picture in the yearbook? I was salty about that for years until I think I may have only come to grips with it when Barack Obama became president. And I realized that Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Shirley Chisholm had blazed a trail for him. And he got all the accolades and all the kudos. But had it not been for, let's say, Jesse Jackson, there would have been no Barack Obama as president of the United States. That helped me to come to terms with being a trailblazer. When I lived in Rochester, New York, I was a machinist. I know a lot of you won't know what that is. Google is your friend. I found out that I was the only Black female machinist in the state of New York, in the entire state. I'm sure they have more now, but trailblazing. But also being the only Black female machinist in a shop, in a job shop, it was, let's just say, it was not fun all the time. And again, being fake me, trying to fit in, because this was a white male predominated industry, profession. And being Black was one thing. They could accept, there were some Black men there and they kind of accepted them. But being female on top of that, they would yell things at me across the shop floor, like, you're keeping some white man from feeding his family. Yeah, they would actually say that. I would go home crying, go to work crying. And then I got sick and tired of being sick and tired and went and found another job. I was afraid to look for a job because of that feeling of not good enough. The first place I applied, I got hired. Again, I went through the same thing. I finally went and applied for a job at Eastman Kodak Company. They said, oh, we've heard about you. We've just been waiting for you to apply.
Wow.
Recruit. My whole point of this story is not to elevate myself, but to say, when you're good at something and you know you're good at something, own that. Because I was good at what I did. I knew I was good at what I did, but my inner self was still feeling that not good enough thing, and I was suffering. So don't suffer like I did. Own your greatness and move forward. The worst thing that's going to happen to you is somebody's going to tell you no. And you
Yes.
will lose, but they might say yes. And when they say yes, guess who wins?
Yeah, man. I love the trailblazing. I think that was really beautiful because it is a very big mindset. I do a lot of mindset work, and we don't talk about that. We've done that in our leadership course. We've learned about the archetypes of leadership, where we fall into them. And we've used these weeks to raise up in them. And it's amazing because each and every human being, we're wired the same way. So listen, guys, here's the good news. You are not the only one out there that has that conversation. You're not good enough. It's been wired in us way before we would ever remember. in psychology and research and all of the emotional intelligence work, a whole bunch of situations happened to us somewhere between before birth and 9, and we've made up our whole entire belief system around it. And the biggest one, no matter what your incident is, if it's traumatic to like, mom told you you can't drink chocolate milk, that belief system is, I'm not good enough, right? If mom said you can't have chocolate milk at 5 and you remember that, and that feeling made you angry and mad, it's, I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. Mommy doesn't love me. And it moves forward.
And interestingly enough, we often put ourselves in that box. No one has to tell us that, because sometimes we just, for some reason, some of us are just wired to think the worst. Again, growing up, I decided that I wasn't good enough. I decided that I was the least favorite child. Maybe I was, maybe I wasn't. Nobody told me that, but I had siblings, and I had 2 brothers who are both transitioned now, and I have 2 sisters who are still living. Growing up, I got the least amount of attention. I felt that it was because I was the least loved. I decided that. Nobody told me that. When I was in my 30s or 40s, I got the courage to talk with my mother about it. You know what she told me? She says, it wasn't that at all. She said, you were so self-sufficient, I just didn't think you needed the attention.
Yes.
So all of my life, I'm walking around thinking that I wasn't worthy of my mother's love, when my mother loved me so much that she allowed me to make my own decisions about many of the things that were happening in my life, because she thought I was competent to do that. So I say, don't just assume the worst. Ask
Yes.
questions. One of the 4 agreements, this book called The 4 Agreements,
I love
you
it.
familiar with it, by Miguel? I've forgotten his last name. One of those agreements is don't make assumptions. And it takes courage to ask a question, especially if we think it's a hard question. So don't just assume, because I may ask you one thing. Don't try to decide why I'm asking the question. Either answer the question or ask me why I want to know.
Ooh. Did you get that, guys? Nancy, say that one more time because that's deep. Go ahead.
And saying, if I ask you a question, don't just assume. Don't make an assumption of why I'm asking the question. Either answer the question or ask me why I want to know. For example, if I ask you, why are you wearing that color lipstick? Don't assume that I think it doesn't match. The assumption, if you want to make an assumption, assume that I think it looks so good with that outfit that I wanted to know your thought process when you made that decision. So you can go in either direction with your assumptions, but rather than assume at all, you could say, well, why are you asking me that? And if I can't handle that question, I should not have asked you a question.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is the work of why, like, I feel is missing in the educational system. Because this, listen, like Nancy and I said, all of this we're wired for. Nancy's very personal story about her mom and finally asking her years later about how she grew up and saying she made that decision, she's not worth it, only came out of an incident, which is she's in a family. Like, that's it. She's born, she's in a family, she's watching what she's watching, and she made that decision about herself. Why? Because our brain has 100,000 thoughts a day, and it makes the decisions and thoughts and meanings around it. And we never really stop and think about that. But Nancy got to that answer. Never asked you, Nancy, based on all of this, have you done the Landmark Forum?
I have not.
because that's very much in the landmark forum that Iman talks about in our program. That's beautiful because that's day, like the first weekend. Like that's one of those things. So that's why I thought it was really cool because that's what I got out of my landmark forum. I feel like we live the same life. I have two brothers I grew up with. Both have transitioned as well. And inside of there, it was always like my mom giving accolades to my brothers and never to me. And I was in my 30s, and that was the homework to like call your mom. And I had a couple of coaches because I was all like nervous. And I feel like your mom talked to my mom because she was like, I never had to ask you. Like, you never needed accolades. You were so like, you always did everything. So proud of you. Like, I was self-sufficient, exactly how your dad and I were.
Dependable.
Yep. Oh yeah, man. Always. She's like, I didn't have to worry about going, yeah, like all of those things. So it was really interesting that you
Yeah, if I ask you to do something, I know you're gonna do it and you're gonna do a good job at it. I don't have to keep hounding you about it. And so up through my 30s and 40s, when things would happen to me that were out of sync or that made me unhappy, or someone mistreated me in my mind, and I would do the old poor me. Well, why would anybody love me? My mother didn't even love me. So that shaped my life for so many years. And it was based on a lie. It was based on a lie that I created for myself. Excuses to keep myself from moving forward. But it was also the best I knew to do at the time because I didn't receive some of the types of training that are available now. Don't misunderstand. Our parents and our generation, they did the best they could with the tools they had. I think our job is to do better. And I have a story where I actually did that to my son. And I used to joke, and this is where joking around and kidding around can be dangerous. I used to joke about because I had my son when I was 38, so a little later in life, and people would say he was so cute, he was so this, and I go, oh yeah, well, I saw him on a corner and I picked him up, felt sorry for him, and I would just be kidding. And one day my son was crying, and I said, what's the matter with you? He goes, you don't love me. You say you found me on a corner and da da da. I had no idea how what I was saying was affecting my son. I felt about this big smaller because I had inflicted that pain on my child. And I don't know, because when you're that young, I mean, because he was like 4 or 5, something like that, very, very young. And I don't know how that impressed on him and on his development. Even though I never did it again, I profusely apologized. I explained that I was kidding. The mind, the subconscious mind, does not know what a joke is. It does not know what a negation is. It just knows the thought that's going through it. And I didn't realize that at the time. So all I can do is when I noticed that I was doing that, I can't undo it, but I can certainly do better going forward.
Yeah, Nancy just made such a huge impact on my life right now. Like I want to acknowledge you because I have a 4-year-old, and we just were out for breakfast this morning, and my husband and I really, I just got very present to, the take for granted, the sarcasm, like that type of thing, and I forget that she's literal. She's a 4-year-old girl with a limbic brain. Everything is very literal. So I can now see why she gets so upset, why the quote unquote attitude comes up, because that's just her protecting herself. That's the ego protecting that emotion. And then we get frustrated and we are like, Now you got an attitude problem. Now you're, go to your room, blah, 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 like all of that. When really it's we're the ones who inflicted that. So I really appreciate that. That is like a great, as much as guys, you can know this work, it's important to continue this work. It's important why I surround myself with people like Nancy, a community, and to continue to do growth and development, no matter what it looks like, because our brain has a million thoughts. And what I know doesn't mean that it's instilled in my heart and soul. And so this conversation, at this moment, gets to shift the rest of my day for my family, starting with me and having a conversation with my husband when they come back. And so that we can like really get present to the experience of that and be responsible adults. And like I'm clear the rest of the day with my daughter is going to be amazing. Because before I got on this with the call with Nancy, guys, this is how real Nancy and I get. It was not that way. And now I can thank you for that too. Because I could see it's all about the sarcasm. It was all about the kidding around. And she's just reacting from a 4-year-old who takes it literally.
And also, because of the way that your family is composed, understand your daughter's burden is going to be greater, because she's going to have more of that do I fit in thing going on, and she's going to catch more flack as she goes through life because of the composition of the family. So it's really, really important that she in her core feels loved and accepted by her parents.
Yes. You were like mind reading me, because one of the things I really loved since I've met you is that the part of my leadership that I have not really, like, that I'm continuing to grow and develop in, but really haven't been comfortable in, is those uncomfortable conversations, which is, for everybody who doesn't know me, if you're friends with Nancy, my daughter's adopted. She's Black. She's from African American mom who we do have a open adoption with. It's slow and steady. My husband grew up white. I was adopted, and I'm half Spanish and half a whole bunch of other things, Puerto Rican, from Africa. So learning more and more about myself. And really in 2020, with this whole, all of these Black Lives Matters movement and all of the horrible racial injustices that were happening, our mutual friend, Maddie Lynn, had me start having this conversation of women of color, which I really didn't see myself as. Yeah, guys, like I just didn't. I was brought up and I was just like, oh, there is, I'm open to everything. But Nancy really, like, smiling, she'll say something about this. I'm excited. I'm bringing this up because, like, it is a responsibility. Like, it's a responsibility. So it's a great reminder again, that my daughter, we're in a very multicultural, multiracial, family. And we're going to meet lots of people. And right now, it all seems pretty and perfect. She's 4. She's cute. Everybody loves everything. But yeah, it's been something that's been sitting in my heart this year a little bit more, growing as she's growing up. So I appreciate you bringing it up. I'd love to hear some insight of what I just said, whatever you can support me with.
Yeah, and the thing about colorism and the color complex is we cannot ignore these differences. There are cultural differences, there are color differences, there are things that I will experience differently than you, differently than someone who is lighter than you. And when I say lighter, it has nothing to do necessarily with your ethnicity. It has to do with the way people see you when they look at you. When I walk into a store, people look at me differently than they look at you. Again, from my history, when I was a machinist, it's kind of a dirty job. And I used to wear my hair cut really short in what we call the TWA. For those people who are not 70s babies, 70s adults, that's a teeny weeny afro. And because I was working in kind of a dirty place, I didn't wear makeup to work. I wore jeans and a t-shirt. I was tiny back then. And I went in and I didn't have my nails done and all of that stuff unless I was going someplace. I went to a store one day and I bought some stuff in the grocery store and they said, "Thank you, sir." That's how androgynous I looked because they didn't really look at me too closely. I did have, mammary glands, but, they weren't very large. So I could have been mistaken for a man because of the way, if you didn't look at me closely. But I would get paid, and this was back before direct deposit. This was when you got a check and you went to the bank and cashed it. And I went to Macy's. I was in Rochester, New York. I went to Macy's to buy a dress to wear to church that Sunday. And the people in Macy's, because I was dirty and, because I had just gotten off work and I had gotten a lot of dust from the work that I was doing on me. And it was carbon, which is the stuff that pencil lead is made out of. So my t-shirt was full of that and I was pretty dirty. And the women in the store just looked at me, and at the time I had a pocket full of money, probably their equivalent of 2 weeks' salary. I'm walking around with in my pocket because that job paid well. And they were turning their noses up at me. I just turned around, walked out of the store, went into a little small boutique that was near where I lived. I got attention, and every week I would go into that boutique and buy something, but I would not in Macy's. And that is because they looked at me, perceived me a particular way, and I felt some kind of way about it. So I decided that I would just leave and it was their loss. So it's important to not just look on people and decide things about them. So I don't know what caused, if they looked at me like that because I was Black, because I was dirty, or some combination of that. But I do know that in many of the stores, they train people to watch Black people when they walk in. And that's what white privilege is about. It's not that you have any more, that white people or fairer skinned people have any more rights than anyone else. It's that they are treated different and they are looked upon differently just because of the color of their skin. There are assumptions that are made about people based on this, based on colorism. And as your daughter grows up, people will see her one way. And then when she shows up with her parents, they're going to be looking at you guys like something is wrong with you.
Nancy, so this is where I want your, here, this is perfect. I'm going to stop it right here because this is deep and guys, we're going raw. This is the part you guys need to come in at 43 minutes into this. So it's already happening. And my husband right now is with my daughter at Home Depot. And right away, he says anytime he's alone with Lexi, if she's in the park or if anywhere they are, right away, he notices everybody looking. It says it takes everything in his power to just ground himself because my husband's an empath. He really feels energy way before we're even talking about colorism, right? Like all of that. And a situation happened to him about 2 months ago. They were at Publix, which is our grocery store. My daughter had to go to the bathroom. I was working, so I wasn't there. And he was like, "Can you wait till we get home? Can you wait to get home?" Because they only have, like 2 different bathrooms, right? Female, male. And she was crying. And all she said was like, "No, Daddy, no." She said, "No, don't take me in here, no." Going into the man's bathroom because she was peeing on herself. And what do you think happened? Like everybody, he was like, so he said, I was mortified. I couldn't breathe. Like he said, he couldn't breathe. He almost had a panic attack. And when you were saying before about my lipstick, because I'm going to correlate that, he got that courage to be able to see an employee right there and say, this is my daughter. She needs to go to the bathroom. Is there a place that I can bring to her to go to the bathroom? She does not want to go into the men's bathroom, and I know I can't go into the ladies' bathroom. Is there an employee bathroom? And the person was amazing, wonderful, and did that. But, all he kept on feeling like was nobody believes him except for that one person. Everybody now thinks whatever, because she was hysterical, going, "Don't take me in there, no." And he's white, and she's black.
Right.
And even like going out now, he says he, of course, loves his Jordan more than anything. But he says he always has to ground himself and get himself in a headspace because here he is constantly being looked at. We're together when it's me and my daughter. People kind of look for a second. I can see it. They see me, they see her, and whatever. I don't know what their story is, whatever it is, but they'll say, and then like life happens. But the minute he walks over and she says, "Daddy," and we're a family, there's a shift.
So imagine how that would have played out if she had been white and he had been black. He would probably be in jail. They would have arrested him for child molestation.
And he didn't even do anything yet.
Molestation.
Right, and he didn't even do anything, right?
And so that's the whole thing, is that they would at least give the white man the opportunity to explain.
Oh, Nance, my heart. I mean, I feel it. Like I feel it. Like we are a moment of laughing because it's the truth. The truth is out there, and this is definitely.
So it's going to be, just to get back to our topic, it's going to be especially important for your daughter to be able to find her safe space. And your husband to find his safe space, to find a way, because this is going to continue to happen, to find, and lots of places now have family bathrooms, but not every place does. So what does he do? Aside from, of course, have her go before she leaves home, but that doesn't mean she's not going to need to go again. You can't deprive her of fluids for 2 hours before she goes out someplace. So they each need to find their safe space. You need to help her because she's really kind of young. So that a conversation around that situation needs to happen with her after it happens, while it's still fresh, so that she knows that she didn't do anything wrong and that it is society that is out of sync. You see what I'm saying? So that she will not start to care, because kids don't know and don't necessarily feel safe enough to ask the question of why. And then they walk around with, what did I do wrong? This happened because I was crying. It's my fault. So it is incumbent upon adults to be preemptive and come to the child and explain, this happened and this is what I think about it. I want you to understand that you are perfect and you are great, and that nothing that resulted from this is because of you. It is not your fault. You are absolutely perfect being who you are, so that she grows up feeling safe and not having to unlearn all the garbage that she would be learning otherwise, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes total sense, and I really appreciate it. We are very, grateful for conversations with people like you. Again, grateful that you put and instilled that reminder in my head. Today. Today, Nancy is my clock. Like 15 minutes before an interview goes off. Like she's my reminder. And for everybody who's looking out there. There are a lot of phenomenal resources and books for children her age that my daughter loves reading. The one thing we've instilled in very long, at an early age is reading, like reading a book. So there's a lot of phenomenal books that she is reading about race and difference and adoption and open adoption. And anybody who's watching, if there are any books that you have that you think would be great based on what Nancy just shared with me, put it in the comments. Because that's what we're here for. Nancy and I are here to have a conversation. We're having a dialogue with you guys. This is open for you guys to please write into the comments what resonated for you. You got the courage, share a story. If you got some resources, put it in there. If you want to speak to Nancy more about this offline, we've got her information for you. If there's something you want to speak to me offline, if there's something you want to have an interview with me, her, all of us, let's do it. Because that is why I created this platform. Nancy, I appreciate you. Your conversation today was rich, it was touching, it was moving, it was powerful, it was inspiring. Is there anything you want to leave the viewers with before we sign off?
Well, I just want to say thank you, Regina, for giving voice to my stand, for allowing me to be me, to be vulnerable, for creating a safe space for me to share these things. I just want to reiterate what Regina says. If you want to talk with me, feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out to me on Facebook. I believe Regina has shared my email address as well. And we can continue this conversation. We can do multiple things. I do coaching, I do workshops, I do keynote speeches. So if you have an organization that you think would benefit from some of these ideas, then reach out to me. I'm happy to have that conversation. And Regina, I just want to applaud you for the work that you're doing, because I've watched some of your interviews and I really believe that you're making a difference in the world, which is your stand, to make a difference in the world and to give other people the opportunity to shine their light to make differences. And I just thank you so much for this opportunity.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Nance. I totally love you. All right, guys, this is Regina Rossi Lamothe and Nancy Ford from Here for You, Connections and Resources. You guys have a beautiful rest of the day. Keep exploring, keep rising, keep on just pushing forward through those uncomfortable situations. And we will see you. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. if you're interested. I'm now moving to my Instagram platform at Here For You Coaching. And please reach out to Nancy. It's been wonderful. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.